So, in fact, I am a columnist for the Los Angeles Times. I write about cars and motorcycles. I write a monthly column called LA Walks, about hiking and walking in Los Angeles. I am a novelist. I have a best-selling New York Times and LA Times author with a lot of books to my name. I am a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of wonderful things, but for the purpose of the conversation today, in fact, all I really am is a guy with a very bad back. I'm a guy with a chronically bad back. And here's what I mean by that, and here's what it has to do with the conversation we're having this morning. I had, because I've been blessed with great fortune and good luck my whole life, I began to have a series of kind of calamitous health problems. I had the doctors told me that persistent pain in my right side was in fact my hip, and I need to have it replaced. So, huge surgery, very unpleasant, long rehab. I'm just getting better from that. They told me things like, no, you're not going to be able to get back on the tennis court. Just let that go, let that go. And no, you're not going to be able to run anymore. You've got to let that go. And the whole motorcycles in the desert, dirt bikes, it's probably not going to happen for you. Skiing, absolutely out. Absolutely. Snowboarding, don't even think about it. But I figured maybe they were wrong about that because I'm tough and I don't like doctors, so I really hit the physical therapy hard, and I start to get really well. And I start to get back on the tennis court, and I start to get back on the motorcycle, and then they tell me that the pain that I'm having in my left hip is in fact the same thing. So I got to go back in, and I got to have another total hip replacement on that side. And again, the same conversation. You're going to have to stop thinking about tennis. It's really going to be bad for you. You're not going to enjoy it. And skiing and dirt bikes and all of that. I figured they're probably wrong again, so I go through physical therapy. I hit it really hard, and I begin to get back to, on top of things. And I start playing tennis again, and I start riding motorcycles again, and then I have an accident and I break my leg. And it's kind of a bad break, and they tell me we can fix it, but this is going to be a delicate bone for a long time, so probably not going to, and they give me the same. They must have it on a card. It's like Fleming's coming in, yeah, get the card about tennis. But again, I prove them wrong, and again I start to play tennis again, and I start to do some more sports again and motorcycles, and I figure skiing is a bad idea if you have replacement hips because the skis could go like that way. But the snowboarding, a lot of bad stuff could happen, but probably your legs going in different directions at the same time is not going to be one of them. So I take up snowboarding, I'm having a ball, and then some other stuff happens, and some other stuff happens, and some other stuff happens. And eventually what's happened to me is the hip replacement, the broken leg. I have 2 hand surgeries, I have a foot surgery, I have a lower back spinal surgery, I have a mid-back spinal surgery, and I'm up for the 3rd one. 3 spinal surgeries in 3 years, and I got the surgery date. I'm at the point now where I can't drive, I can't walk, I can't stand for periods of time, I can't really lie down comfortably, but I can't really sit down comfortably either. So everywhere I'm moving, everything I'm doing is really uncomfortable, really unpleasant, and I start to believe that the surgery is not going to help. I begin to think about what's going to be involved, and I call the doctor and I say, you know what, I'm sure you're right. I'm not questioning your medical judgment. I'm sure I need the surgery, but the fact of the matter is I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't go back into the hospital. I can't do another overnight. I can't do another surgery. I can't do another rehab. I just can't do it. I'm just beat. I can't do it. So I'm not showing up. I'm going to do this other thing instead. And the other thing was, I had found as my health was getting worse and I was having more and more trouble walking, that if I could get upright and if I could move a little bit, the pain in my back would diminish a little bit. So I decided that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can magnify that a little bit and get out from under this back pain, just to get a little break. I know I got to show up for the surgery sooner or later, but just to get a little break. So the first day I asked my wife to put me in the car and drive me down. We live on a big steep hill in Silver Lake. Drive me down to a flat street where I get out of the car and I walk about a block before I'm absolutely toast. And she puts me back in the car and she drives me home and she says, that didn't really work very well, did it? And I said, well, no, in fact, because for half of that block, I didn't feel quite as horrible. So I want to go back tomorrow and I want to try it again. We went back down the hill the next day and I did like 2 blocks. And the same experience. She said, you look terrible. And I said, yeah, I actually feel terrible, but right in the middle of that, something kind of magical happened. I didn't want to kill myself for about 20 seconds. So I went back the next day, and I went back the next day. And every day I went back, I walked a little farther, and every day that I walked, I felt a little bit better in the middle of the walk. So I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. And pretty soon, it's been a month, and I'm now walking about a mile on flat ground, and I'm starting to feel a little stronger, and I'm starting to think, wow, like maybe this might be the solution to my problem. I'm starting to work again. I'm starting to have whole half hours where I feel like I'm not going to have to kill myself. Like the sun is really shining on me. And the problem is, however, I'm incredibly lazy, and I don't like exercise. I will play tennis like a maniac. I will race motorcycles. I will do anything that's exciting that involves exercise. But just exercise, I'm not going to do it. And I know that about myself, so I made the decision. I got to start adding some hills to my walk to make it a little harder. And I got to get a gimmick going. I got to get a trick to this. Otherwise, I know me, I'm going to get bored, and I'm going to stop walking. And I had noticed growing up in Pacific Palisades, and then living in Silver Lake, there were these public staircases. A length of stairs connecting one street to another. For what reason? I don't know. Where do they go? I don't know. I've noticed there are about 5 or 6 of them around Silver Lake, so I decide I'm going to see if I can find them all. And I'm going to kind of walk them. I'm going to see where they go. And then I'm going to maybe see about making little loops where I connect this staircase to that staircase by walking on this street. And I'll make a little circle. And I'll make it kind of like I had in Ireland and England when I was a tourist there. I had found they have these things called circular pub walks, where you start in a pub, you have a drink, you take your little pub walk book, and it says go out across this field and go through this stile and go under this section of elm trees and go to the kissing gate and come around here and the chestnut trees, and an hour later you find yourself back at the same time. So I decided I'm going to make some little walks like that just as a gimmick to keep me going. And so I set off. And what I discovered were there were these public staircases that had been built all over the city, a lot of it in Silver Lake. The concept being that when the city was beginning to push out from downtown Los Angeles and was beginning to go into the areas that were not flat, kind of river area, they were building houses on streets that were steep. And they were building houses for prospective buyers who probably didn't have a car. They certainly didn't have 2 cars. So they had to find a way to get these people, rather than make them walk all the way down the long sloping street, to get them down the hill in a hurry so they could get to the market, so they could get to church, so the kids could get to school, so they could get to the red lines, the trolley system that was a big part of Los Angeles at that time. So they started building these staircases. And so what I found was they connected steep streets. They often led to a little shopping area. They often led to a street that had a red line on it. They often led to an elementary school or a junior high school. And they were kind of abandoned and kind of empty. I started walking and I never bumped into anybody. There wasn't anybody there for me to ask, where is this going? And what is it for? So it was kind of this mysterious exploration that I was doing of trying to figure out where they all were. There was no map of them. There is no map of them. They're kind of controlled by the city, kind of controlled by Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Street Maintenance, but nobody pays any attention to them. So I kind of had them to myself. And this campaign that I decided, I'm going to find all 5 or 6 of them in Silver Lake. Well, it turned out there were like 49 in Silver Lake, which was great because it took me a little while to find them all and to link them together through all these various walks. And by the time I finished that, I'm feeling awesome. Like I'm working, I'm back in the tennis court, I'm riding a motorcycle again. I feel great. But I know myself, and I know I'm lazy, and I know I'm going to stop unless I can find a way to sort of extend the recovery period. So I decide, you know what, I bet you there's some in Echo Park also. And I decide I'm going to find, there are probably 10 or 15 over there. So I decided to look up, find all the ones in Echo Park. So I get in my car and I drive up Echo Park Avenue and I park my Chango Coffee and I know there's one right there. And I head up there and I walk over here and I see another one on a hillside and I head over there and I'm making notes. Well, it turns out there's about 55 of them in Echo Park. So that takes me another couple of months to do that. Well, by now I'm really feeling good and something else is happening. 2 other things are happening. One is I'm beginning to have a different feeling about Los Angeles. I moved here in 1966 when I was a kid. I've been indifferent to it the entire time. I mean, I've lived here, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in the Far East, I've lived all over the place. But mostly I've been here, I got married here, I had children here, most of my career has been here. But you know what? I can kind of take it or leave it. There are a lot of things about it that I don't like, so many things about it that I don't like, that I forget about the things that I do like. And so, if you ask me, would you like to live someplace else? My answer is absolutely. Where should we go? I'll go back to Japan, I'll go back to Thailand, I'd love to live in France again. Let's go back to Italy. Absolutely. But what I found was, I had just been seeing Los Angeles the wrong way. I had been seeing it at the wrong speed. I had been seeing it as a frustrated driver trying to get from one point to another. What happened when I started walking was all of a sudden at pedestrian speed, I could really see the architecture, and I could really see the trees, and I could really smell the flowers, and I could really appreciate, especially once I had a mandate to start walking in these areas, or created a mandate to walk in these areas that I didn't know. I started finding out all these amazing things about LA history. I would meet people on the streets, and I would say, that's an amazing house. What is that house? And they would tell me, well, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright house, or it's a Schindler house. Or I would meet someone raking leaves, and I would say, how are you this morning? Fine. You know what house this is, right? And I would say, no. They said, are you kidding? Raymond Chandler used to live here. He wrote part of the Big Sleep screenplay when he was here. Or this is where William Faulkner was living when he was working on this. Or this is where Charles Chaplin had his studio before he moved over to La Brea. So I started learning about all that, because I kind of got a sense of LA that was kind of interesting to me. And the other thing that happened was people who I know, because I've lived in Silver Lake since the early 80s, people I know started asking me questions like, are you okay? Because I kind of see you walking around a lot. Like all over the place. What's the deal with that? And I told them, a little embarrassed, like I got this bag, and I got this thing, and I'm trying to, and to my surprise they said, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. What do you mean these staircases? What is that? And could I come with you? So I started taking little groups of people. We'd go out and walk for an hour. And it turned out that they thought this was really interesting. I thought it was really boring. I've been doing it for 3 years at this point, and I keep telling them, like, it's just me. I'm just walking. You don't understand. I don't even like it. I'm not even having fun. It's just this therapeutic thing that I have to do. But they said, no, it's really cool. And then as we would walk, I would say, it's kind of interesting. That house is where Anais Nin was living when she died. Or that's the house that this composer lived in, or Beck used to be here, or that used to be Madonna's house. And they thought that was really interesting. And so they asked me the rather obvious question that I had not asked myself, which was, why isn't this a book? And I said, well, because no one is interested. It was me and my wife, and like these three knuckleheads with nothing better to do, and you. I don't know what your problem is, but it's not really very interesting. But by now, like there were 10 of us and we were walking, and they said, nah, you're wrong, you're wrong. This is really kind of cool. You should just at least do a little book proposal. That's what you do for a living. Do a little book proposal and just see. So I did. Got a publisher interested, got a publisher really quite excited. So excited that the day before the book was published, I had to ask him to please diminish his expectations. He said, this book is not going to be successful. It's a good thing to do. It's a worthy thing to do. But you're not going to make any money. And you're making me feel uncomfortable by keep talking about how it's going to be successful. So please, calm yourself down. What we had created at that point was I had collected and assembled a sort of collection of 42 circular walks, like those pub walks that I was talking about, all over the city. Mount Washington, Civic Palisades, Santa Monica, Eagle Rock, Echo Park, Silver Lake, Pasadena, Hermon, and Garbanza, and all these little communities that probably you haven't heard of, that I haven't heard of, all around Los Angeles. And each of them is a walk that starts at a cafe, goes for about an hour and a half, goes up some stairs and down some stairs and around the corner, through these sort of strange back alleys, this weird kind of urban trail through the city that you would never see otherwise, that you would have no reason to see otherwise. And then along the way, points of pastime, heroes from the art world were formed from the architectural world. And as I say, I was 100% certain that the book would be a failure, a noble act, because there might be some other person with a bad back who could benefit from this. But otherwise, let's be serious. Who's going to be interested in this? Well, it turns out the publisher is a publisher for a reason. He has a big successful company because he's smarter than we are. And the book was immediately a success. It has been a success. It has been on and off the LA Times bestseller list since it was first published 5.5 years ago. It was so successful that my publisher, because he is a greedy bastard, I'm being redundant. I told you he was a publisher. So he wanted another book, and I said, well, I used them all. That's all there are. There's no more stairs. Should have thought of that before. Part one. But because, like I said already, he's a greedy publisher bastard. I had a daughter who was going to school at Cal, and there were all kinds of stairs at Oakland and Berkeley. So I thought, all right, I'll do, the book was called Secret Stairs in LA, I'll do Secret Stairs East Bay. So I did the same thing. It's about 40 walks, same thing. You climb up some stairs, you walk over here, you walk down there, you see some amazing stuff, amazing architecture. Hey, famous person lived here. And then you're back at the cafe, you've had a nice long walk, and you don't even know it. You don't even know that you've had any exercise. And then because the publisher is a publisher, he wants more. So by now, what's happened is I've started leading this monthly walk where it's just a free walk, come one, come all. We go to a new location every month, and at first it's me and my wife and those 3 knuckleheads that I was talking about, and then there's 5 more people that don't have anything better to do on a Sunday, and then 6 more weirdos who are interested in, like creepy LA. Well, come, the second year and the third year, and now Secret Stairs East Bay is published. Now it's me and my wife and like 100 people, like 120 people, 140 people sometimes. And some of them are telling me slightly heartbreaking things, which is, I would love to come on this walk with my mom, but I can't because she's kind of old and her knees are bad. Or I'd love to come on this walk with my kids, but I push them in a stroller. So it occurs to me that I can satisfy those people and my greedy ass publisher by doing another book, which I call Secret Walks. And again, same concept, this time without the stairs. It's, here's a park you've never heard of, here's a neighborhood you've never been in, here's a hike you've never learned about. And you start here and you go there and you come back an hour later and you have no idea that you've been having a workout, but you've had a nice bit of exercise while you've been enjoying yourself. And here's the interesting thing that's happened. First of all, I'm still walking. I never showed up for that surgery. I went back to tennis, I went back to motorcycle riding, I went back to motorcycle racing, snowboarding, all of that stuff. As long as I get up and walk every day, as I do in the hills of Silver Lake, I continue to be really healthy. And as long as I continue to promote this book, I get 100 people, 120 people every first Sunday of the month usually, which gives me this reason to go out there. I'm doing a walking column from the LA Times, which gives me this mandate to still go and find stuff that I don't know about. I've lived here since 1966. I'm kind of running out of stuff, but I'm still amazed because it's such a big city that if I get out of my car, if I walk on my feet and go into a neighborhood that I don't know well, I discover this is amazing. There's a lake here. I didn't know there was a peanut lake. I've lived under Peanut Lake for 30 years. I had no idea, and it's just right here. And it's an easy walk to get to it. No idea. I'm continuing to discover that there are all kinds of things about the city that really amaze me and interest me. And the other thing that I found is that the pass-along has been magnificent because every time I do one of these walks, every time I publish one of these walks, I hear the same thing from somebody like me. I've lived here my entire life, I never knew. I never knew. And amazing things have happened to these people that join me on the stairs. Some people have been coming every month for 5 or 6 years. And this one has lost 60 pounds and is dating for the first time in 5 years. This one made friends with this guy, and now they're starting a company together. These 2 people started walking together, they're dating. I haven't been asked yet, but I am a reverend. I'm old enough that I was concerned about the draft. And back in the day, in the 60s, you could actually get a draft deferment if you were a man of the cloth. So I became a reverend via the Universal Life Church in 1972 for $100. So I'm waiting to perform my first stair wedding for, so don't be shy. Don't be shy, this could be it. This could be it. And the takeaway for me has been, and the way that I guess it ties in a little bit to the theme that we've been asked to think about today is, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's on the other side. This entire world opened up to me only because I had this piece of bad luck and decided to spin the bad luck in a way that forced me to go someplace I didn't want to go. It forced me to go and look at some stuff that didn't interest me, to take a set of stairs up there because I got to do the walk because it's good for me, and who knows, there might be something interesting there, probably not, probably a huge waste of my time, but maybe there's something there. And that for me has turned out to be a useful way to kind of live the second half of my life. I don't know what's there, I don't know why I should go there, but I have figured out that it's way better for me to be the guy that says, you know what, let's check it out, than the guy that I was for most of my life, which was, nah, there's nothing there, don't waste your time. So what I'll leave you with is the idea of you don't know what's there, you don't know what you don't know, go and find out. And if you need a copy of Secret Stairs or Secret Walks, I was asked to bring some. I will be happy to sell you one at my cost, which is considerably irritating to my publisher, the greedy bastard. And I've also been told that I will be entertaining questions if there are any. But in the meantime, thank you for being here, and thank you for giving me an excuse to talk about something I like.